to the Watershed Education Teacher Leadership Academy, partnering university scientists and classroom teachers to improve outdoor education in schoolyards. This project we refer to as Wetland, and I'm Molly Nation, and my colleague is Jennifer Jones. We're both from Florida Gulf Coast University. So a little bit of background about the goals of the project. First, we wanted to create a community of practice. We wanted to be able to connect district administrators with K-12 teachers and university researchers. The overall goal of this project and this collaboration was to improve environmental education in Southwest Florida. We also wanted to give these K-12 teachers increased efficacy. We wanted to increase their skills, their competence, and their confidence in being able to incorporate authentic, inquiry-driven scientific practices in their own schoolyards. So we were using this as a model to be able to take back to their classrooms and implement similar strategies with their own students. Next, we wanted to be able to increase research scientists' access and be able to communicate their work to a wider audience. Many of our researchers at the university are not skilled practitioners in pedagogy. They're excellent researchers, but they have limited access and ability to communicate their research to a more layperson audience. And then lastly, the overarching goal of this is to influence the standards-based district-wide curriculum so that we can improve the environmental education that's going on throughout the region. Different grade levels and content areas, and so we were able to recruit 9 different teachers that were across elementary, middle, and high school in a variety of different content areas. While all these teachers were science teachers, their level of science instruction varied greatly from the elementary level to high school chemistry. Then we created what we considered a student-centered learning model, different from traditional professional development, by modeling this engaged constructivist teacher training, where teachers not only participate in field and laboratory research with the university scientists, but they're also able to take that back to their own classrooms. So through this authentic field experience with the university scientists, they were able to increase their efficacy and also inform their own use of their schoolyards to be able to develop lesson plans that fit their individual needs. So after the teachers experienced the field work with the researchers, they were then asked to create a lesson and implement a lesson within their own classrooms to be able to come back and report with their professional development collaborative action group. At the time when they came back and discussed the lesson plan, they also were in a schoolyard to be able to demo that with their peers. And at that same time, the researcher would visit the schoolyard to observe the teacher demonstrated lesson plans, provide recommendations for improved science content, and also give overall feedback. We use the model of Enhanced Normal Practice, or ENP, to help build on this collaborative action research. So ENP is a model of collaborative action research, or also known as CAR, that's based on the teacher's expertise. So first what we did was we asked teachers to respond to stories. So through this process, they share their stories. And in this specific example, they're sharing their lesson plan, how it went in their classroom, and what other questions they may have had about it. So this is important for detailing it and asking critical questions about the teaching and learning through this peer group. Through this sharing of stories, teachers are able to have collaborative meetings, share about their practices, and be able to relate it to their research focus, which in this instance is watershed education. This process of systemic inquiry, or the sharing of stories and trying out ideas, can help lead to greater teacher engagement and also analysis on their own traditional practices that are typically used in the process of action research. So the following research questions were addressed. Number 1, what were the effects of the professional development on the classroom teacher's practice? What role did the partnership play in improving overall environmental education within the district? And 3, what impact did the partnership have on university faculty translating their research to a broader audience. So through this method of collaborative action research, we use learning progressions as a framework to help guide our thinking about how teachers' knowledge and practice progressed over time. This helped us understand our teacher progression and trajectories as more of a development as a whole rather than a series of discrete events. We often see learning progressions used in terms of student learning, but it's recently becoming more widely used to gauge professional development impacts. So the COP model, which is a community of practice, helped allow for better cross-curricular engagement from grades and content areas of individuals who maybe didn't collaborate with each other as often. And this led to more authentic field research and also ultimately helped increase our outdoor environmental education throughout the district as a whole because we had a greater access to that population. We also found that participants really valued working with the expert. We found that as we continue to work with our partners, we're able to engage these teachers in authentic science research and these really informative and meaningful experiences. Just to pull a quote, one teacher said, "It was exciting to have a professional person, educator, and scientist because it shows that what I'm doing is important." We also found that their confidence and ability to use their own outdoor classrooms and school ponds in their own classrooms increased as a result of this intervention. Their self-efficacy increased over the experience. This was based on the results of the pre and post survey, which I'll go over in a minute. And then finally, we found that the researchers were better able to translate their work to a broader audience, which I'll go over in greater detail later. So this is an example of the pre and post test that we used. And you can see that all of the differences from pre to post, we saw a positive impact based on the intervention. The survey was given to these teachers before the first intervention in the fall, and the post survey was given in the spring after the final meeting. So I just picked out a few of the ones that we saw the greatest increase on. So we saw increase across all the questions, but these three had higher than most. So the first was, to what extent do you think you're able to develop and use scientific models? We saw a 0.72 increase from their pre to their post survey. To what extent do you think you'll be able to construct explanations of scientific phenomena? And this was a 0.64 increase. And then finally, to what extent you'll be able to engage in argumentation from evidence. And again, we saw a 0.72 increase on these. This isn't uncommon, as we often see that the intervention leads teachers to have greater self-efficacy, but it is interesting that engaging them in real research type experiences help to increase their confidence and their self-proclaimed ability to be able to do this in the field. So our pilot year, we had recommendations for the future of the program. So I'll just kind of go over about how we were able to address those recommendations. First, we found from our teachers that we needed to incorporate increased peer collaboration time throughout the program and in between meetings to help improve the partnership and also increase the sharing of ideas across university partners and the teachers as a peer group. So what we were able to do is we created a Google Drive where teachers had access to materials. We created a Google Classroom where teachers were able to share different materials, lessons plans, exchange ideas, and we found that there was overall greater use of this platform amongst the teachers, which also led to a greater collaboration across all disciplines. Next, in prior years, we found that we needed to provide additional feedback from the researchers to assist the teachers in ways that they can incorporate their experience in their curriculum. So we offered time at the end of each of the PD meetings for increased collaboration and feedback from the researcher. So the researcher that we chose would be present for the first day doing research in the field, and the second day watching their lesson implementation demos, but also we set aside time after each one of the demos for the researcher to give feedback that helped to clarify some of the confusion that might have existed prior related to the science content. We also found that we needed to provide increased time for debriefing and discussion and strategies to help create a true community of practice. And again, we were able to do that by just removing some of the quote activities that have been planned for the day and really using the last 30 to 45 minutes and sometimes even upwards to an hour to make sure that we were really having open dialogue and discussion so that we were able to facilitate these conversations. We wanted to review the watershed principles that were currently being taught at the district levels so that we could target experiences accordingly and specifically to address those needs. Needs that we found that were cross-curricular were the human impact unit that was found in almost all comprehensive sciences. Those were taught in the spring. We also use these, the different teachers from different content areas to be able to inform this from their own practice. So the teachers were given opportunities to implement the lessons however they felt best fit their curriculum map in the coming weeks. There's still some need to be able to truly align this with the district curriculum map, and sometimes academic calendars don't always allow for that. And finally, we wanted to increase recruitment to be able to engage a greater number of participants. So in the pilot year, we only had 5 participants. We were able to double that, which was also impressive because of COVID and the difficulties in getting substitutes, the transition of classes to being hybrid or all online. And so we're hoping that as the future continues to hold more normal experiences, that we'll be able to even recruit greater numbers of teachers. So to address our findings from our professional development, so number one, we wanted to take the recommendations from prior years to lead to these necessary changes. And so by doing this, we were able to incorporate increased peer collaboration throughout the time, and also in meetings to help improve the partnership, which also can lead to the increased outcomes of the professional development. So keeping in mind that it's important to structure professional development so that practitioners have time and space to share in ownership of what happens and what's expected. So we're helping to align our goals with the teachers' goals so that our goals as university researchers aren't overshadowing the goals that the teachers have for their own classrooms and their own pedagogy. So number 2, the role of this project and program in improving EE. So as we continue to have success, this project has also allowed us to leverage additional fundings to help improve environmental education in the region. We've also begun to lay this groundwork that's going to lead for greater opportunities among collaboration between the university and the school district, but also among other school districts throughout the region. I will say that this is a continue to be a work in progress, and while nothing happens overnight, I do think we're taking small steps to be able to do this. And number 3, which was translating the research to a broader audience. So as we continue to engage greater number of faculty to be able to share their work and link their research to education, we're finding that we're better able to do this and helping our colleagues through this, through our department, which is a traditional STEM department, be able to improve their science communication. So I'll just kind of give some quotes over what our researchers said. So one mentioned that it's another way to conduct research and outreach because teachers are an extension of what we pass on in terms of ecological and environmental awareness. So that's going to be useful for my students and also really impactful, said one of our researchers. Another researcher said, personally, with my exercise, I was able to put my research into broader contexts and applications of the work I do in Southwest Florida. Based on the feedback from the fellow teachers, I'm now working on how to expand my research here locally. And then lastly, our last researcher who helped with us was said that environmental education is a goal to use the concepts of bioregionalism and place-based learning to connect students in a meaningful way to their surrounding areas and local environment. Of course, as many had to deal with the response to COVID-19 during this particularly difficult time when face-to-face meetings were really limited. But we were able to safely use outdoor spaces, and we were able to have appropriate physical distancing in our program to serve as a model, and this helped to encourage teachers to do the same in their own classrooms. Many of them were really struggling with the ability to engage their students in actual authentic science because of the limited space or because of the number of students that were attending virtually. So what we found were that teachers that took part in this were able to develop lessons that students could also do on their schoolyard or could also do at home for those that were taking the courses virtually. It added a certain layer of difficulty, but as we continue to experience the impact of COVID-19, especially here in South Florida, we're able to use these outdoor spaces as a safe way to promote science and authentic research in watershed education. As far as future work, we hope to be able to continue to integrate and develop curriculum that will align with the curriculum map of the district. As I mentioned, the project served as groundwork for future federal funding, and so we've submitted and accepted were awarded the NOAA BWET grant. As we continue engaging other researchers and broader audience, we hope that this will connect our researchers here in the department to our regional laypersons, and that goes beyond just the teaching K-12 population. And we continue to use the enhanced enroll practice as a model for collaborative action research through professional development. Teachers were overwhelmingly responsive, positively responsive to this type of professional development, saying throughout some of their work that they had never taken part in this type of PD before. It was much better than traditional, typical district-wide PD, and allowed them to really put into context their own work. So this project is funded by the Department of Environmental Protection and the 319 Educational Grant. Also, thank you to our partners, the School District of Lee County, and our research partners at Florida Gulf Coast University. If you have questions, please feel free to email me at mnation@fgcu.edu. Thanks.